Okay, this video is going to be a quick demonstration on a couple of Python features. The split function, which basically takes a string and splits it up into a list of items, and then the join function, which is basically the opposite of split. Alright, so let's open a new file. Split. Let's do join first, join underscore split.py. Okay, so the way the join function works is if you have a list of items and we say, you know, cat, dog, bird. Okay, if I want to join all of those items together using some delimiter, some separator, I can do that with by specifying the string that I want to be my delimiter. So this is the thing that I want to join them all together, and I could say delimiter dot join, and what am I joining together? All of the items in my list. Okay. Another way you might see this is just with the delimiter as a string literal and then a dot join. Right. So both of these result in the same thing. We can print that out. And I can run this Python 3 join split, and we see that delimiter goes in between each item in the list, and each item in the list must be a string, otherwise you'll get an error. If we add something like the number 6 to our list and try to do this, we get an error, expected a string. So you can only use join with a list of strings, and basically whatever delimiter you specify goes in between each one of the string elements, and all the string elements are joined together with this delimiter. And this delimiter can be, you know, as big as you want it to be. So I can have multi-string delimiter like that. Now we could do this manually, all right? And we're going to do it manually, specifically with the one character delimiter, only because multi-character delimiter is a little bit harder to do, and for the sake of time, you could do it manually yourself with a multi-character delimiter, but just to showcase what this is doing underneath, under the hood, we're going to try to do join. That's our own version of join, and join is going to take a delimiter, and then it's going to take in a list to join. Okay, so this is our join function. And basically what we have to do is we have to make some string value s. We started out equal to, we could start it out equal to the first element, right? If we do that, then we have to make sure we don't have an empty list. So if the length of our list is empty, then we'll just return the empty string. And we can test that to see if that's the behavior of join. Let's say we have underscore dot join, and I pass in an empty list. I should just print out the empty string here. Run this. Sure enough, it prints out the empty string. Right? So that's behavior, that's correct behavior here. If the length of the list is 0, then we'll just return the empty string. Otherwise, we know we have at least one element. Right? So we'll set the string value s equal to our list item 0, right? And then we need to go through a loop, and for each item we're going to add the delimiter and then the next item in the list, right? So for item in our list, right? That's going to give us all of the items in the list. But here we see S already holds that first item. Okay, so we don't really want item to be every item in the list. We want to take a slice of this, and we'll say from the items in the list starting after element, the first item. So if you think about this as a slice, If the whole list is a loaf of bread, the first slice here is the 0 slice. The 1 slice is here, and we're going to go from 1, the 1 slice, colon, and then since we left this second index or slice number blank, that means go to the end of the list. So this is really going from slice 1, 2 to 3. So it's slice 1 to 3 in this case, but this list could be larger, so it's to the end of the list. So item then is going to be, in this example anyway, it's going to be dog and then bird. So we're leaving out cat, which is important because we've already set the string s equal to cat. All right, so s should equal whatever it did before, plus the delimiter, plus the item. Right? And that's really all there is to it. Let's say that we have a list of just one item. Then for item in the length of list that goes from 1 to the end, if there's only one item, this list is empty, so this for loop never executes, and it just returns the first item, which is the correct behavior for join. Right? And we can test that out as well. So let's print out. We have a delimiter of underscore, and we want to join, and let's say we have a list with just cat in it. All right, so that should just output cat with no delimiter characters. Right, so that's the default behavior of the .join method that's attached to the string object. All right, so we want to mimic that. So here are, I'm gonna just delete these 3 lines and move this line back down. So this is going to be our testing area. Okay, so here's joining the whole list. Here's joining a list of one item, and here is the join function with a list of no items. Okay, and we'll do a little space. And now we want to do the result of our join function, right? So we need to, of course, make sure we return this value of s that we constructed, otherwise there's no point. So we join this together, what's our delimiter, and then our list. So I'm going to basically copy these 3 and see if we get the same results with our join function. So we'll print that out. We're going to print out our join function. The delimiter is the underscore, and then we have our list, and then we duplicate that. Instead of the list, we have a list with just cat in it, and then duplicate that. Instead of a list with cat in it, we have an empty list. So hopefully our function mimics the behavior of the built-in string function. Okay, so we see cat, dog, bird, cat, and then the empty string here is printed out. And then there's our extra line of print. So I guess I can put a little hyphen there so it's a little easier to tell what's happening there. Right, so this prints out the empty string because there are no elements in that list. Okay, so we've successfully mimicked the behavior. So this function's easy enough to build, but join is built in to Python because it's something common that you might use. So you don't have to write this function every single time you need to use it. Okay, you could do it manually, and we're showing that right here with join, right? But if you don't want to do it manually, which you shouldn't need to if it's already part of the language, you can use the built-in function method that's attached to the string object. Okay, so another built-in method that's attached to the string object, actually this one is attached to the list object. This is the split function. Okay, let's see. No, this is attached to the string object. Right. So we've joined these strings together, and we can basically do the opposite. Join and split are opposites. So if I have a string s, and I want to say that s equals this first join function, right? We could print out s. Let's add our another spacer there. So let's print out S, and we see we have our delimiter of underscore. Okay, so in this case, our string is this one long string, and what we want to do is we want to create a list from this data, right? So split is the opposite of join, right? So instead of joining the items by a delimiter, we want to split them up by that delimiter. Okay, so the delimiter will be removed from all instances of the items in the list, right? We're not going to see any underscores, just like in our initial list here. There are no underscores in any of these elements, but we injected the delimiter in between them. Okay, this is the same thing for split. Split is going to remove whatever delimiter we specify, and then each of the items remaining are going to be members of the list, elements of that list. Okay, so that's what we're going to try to do here. So we can see that we can do this easily with the split function. So s.split. So our string we saw was cat underscore dog underscore bird. So we want to split this string over the underscore character. Right? If you had a file of text, each line is separated by the new line character. So to get the lines as an array, you might split over the new line character. So this is the type of thing that this is used for commonly. Right? So we can print out s.split, and you see we get our original list back. Okay, and then we'll try a couple of other scenarios. What if your string is the has just one element in it? Cat. That should be cat. There we go. So our string just has one element, cat. What happens when you split it over the delimiter and the delimiter does not exist in the string? Well, let's see. You just get a list of one item, right? That makes sense. Because if it was cat underscore dog, you get a list of two items. Right, so this is reasonable behavior. So you're splitting the list over underscores. There are no underscores, so that item just becomes the member of the list. And then what happens if you have the empty string and you split over the underscore? Okay. Now this one may not be as intuitive, right? We might have thought that that would be the just an empty list, but it's actually the empty string as the member, as the one and only member of that list, the one and only element. Okay, so this is the behavior we're going to try to mimic. All right, so here I'm going to define my split function. And I'm going to have a starting string, and then specify the delimiter. All right. So to do this, I'm going to need a list. That's my final output, and I want some sort of loop. So I could say while I set I equal to 0, while I is less than the length of my string s, I'm going to do some stuff, and at the end of the loop I'm going to increment I by 1. Right, so this is a simple loop. This style loop is exactly the same functionally as for I in range length of s. Okay, these two loops are effectively the same thing. Alright, this is a little bit more complicated because you're passing a function call as an argument into another function call, and you have to know how the range function works. So this is, in some ways, is a little bit simpler, which is why we're going to do it this while loop. All right, so what do we want to do in this loop? Well, we need to locate the delimiters in this string, right? So keep in mind S is cat underscore dog underscore bird, right? So we need to search for that underscore. Okay, so in this do stuff section, we say if so the current character would be ch, and we'll say that's the character in the string s at index I. Right, so indexing starts at 0. That's why I starts at 0. So I is index. While that index is less than the length of the string, then that's a valid index to access the characters in our string s. So the first time through the loop, I is 0, so our string can access with square brackets the item at index 0, which in our case would just be the letter C. Right? But we want to check for the delimiter. So if ch is equal to our delimiter, then we know we've found a match. Okay, so how are we gonna work out a match? So basically, we have to keep track of the last time we had a match, and take a slice of this string from the last match to the current match. Right, so let's make a variable up here that says last match, and by default that's going to start at 0. Okay, so if the character is the delimiter, right, so that means we have, so this is the string we're trying to slice. So in our case, that is I equals 0, I equals 1, and then the t is I equals 2. And then once I equals 3, our character ch is going to be equivalent to our delimiter. So this will be true at that point. If that is true, then we need to take a slice of the string from the last match, which will be 0, to 1, 2, 3. Right? So the index here is 3. Right? So we need to take a slice from the last match to the index of the current delimiter. Right? So we'll say we have a new list, li, up here. li.append. What are we adding to that list? We're adding a slice of the string s from last match to our current index I. Right? So that slice of the string is going to be added to the list. And then here we need to update last match. So the last match, I, right, if we look back here, I is 3. Now we don't want to include the delimiter in our next token of the string, right? So we don't want underscore dog to be in the next element of the string. We want just dog. Okay, so that means our last match has to be set equal to I plus 1. Right, if we just set last match equal to I, then it would, the next time we encountered the delimiter, it would grab the underscore. Okay, so we don't want that underscore. All right, so this takes care of most of the items, right? But what about the very last item in the list here? Okay, so we have I here. So if I is 3 there, then D would be 4, 5, 6. So this would be I equals, this underscore would be I equals 7, right? And so we've got 8, 9, 10, 11, right? But we never get another delimiter, so we never add another item to the list, okay? And by this point, I is past the length of the string. So all we have to do is, after we exit the loop, right? So we have anything indented inside the loop that's part of the loop body. Once you unindent back to this level, we're outside of the loop. And we just have to add that last item to our list. We'll say li.append and we want to append the slice of the string from last match and just to the end of the string. That's the rest of the string. And then we can return the list. All right. Now let's test this and see if we can get the same behavior that we got from the built-in split function. So this is our split function, and the built-in split function is part of the string object. Okay, so we're gonna put something out like this, and basically use our function instead. Split. What are we splitting? S. What's the delimiter? Underscore. All right, and then we want to split the string cat with an underscore, and then we'll split the empty string with an underscore, and see if we get the same results. We might be missing something, but we'll find out here in a second. Okay, so cat, dog, bird. So this is the built-in version of split attached to the string object, and you get cat, dog, bird. So we got that as well. Then with just cat, we got a list with just cat in it, and sure enough, we do have the same functionality as the built-in versions. Okay, so you can see that we can make these functions ourselves. There's a lot of functions built into Python that you could make yourself. They're just convenient, right? The join method is something we could totally do ourselves, just like the split method. But it's convenient, and it turns out to have a whole lot of uses. It's very, very commonly used. So it's become part of the language. So you don't have to write this in every single program that you make that will make use of this, right? So this is basically a quick demo of how you could code up join and split for yourself, and hopefully that helps you understand sort of what join does and split does a little bit more. And again, this is especially useful for files. If you open a file and you want to get the lines of text in that file, you could split over the new line character, right? And that will give you the lines of the file. And if you had a list of elements that you wanted to put into a file, one element per line, then you join them together with the new line character and then write the data to a file. All right? So that's about it for this video.